getting my first job, and I was looking for a job in marketing, which was a lot tougher for an Indian. Mother birds seeing the babies fly out of the nest, they don't return most of the times. I think any person in a leadership position can't have it all. The world is not getting any safer.
Scale amplifies everything, including confusion. One purpose stabilizes that scale by anchoring those efforts into one direction. Where responsibilities arrive early, purpose must arrive sooner. This is not a conversation about impact, it's about what sustains it. Some peoples are born into possibility. Others are born into expectations. Today's conversation is all about what it takes to find your own voice when the world already knows your surname. Ms. Swati, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Adarsh. Thank you for having me on your show.
So let's start with you. On an ordinary day when there are no spotlights, no events, what brings you to the campus? What drives you?
I think what energy that I get by coming to campus is the energy of the students, is the energy of the youth. You know, I keep telling my colleagues that we work with the age group which will never let us grow old. So their energy is so positively infectious that it brings up our spirits in whatever we do. When I wake up in the morning, I think for me it is really looking forward to a day which would help in making a change, driving a change, making an impact. I think that's what brings me to campus.
Is there a daily ritual or something that you do every day that keeps you steady for throughout the day?
Absolutely. I think in the morning for me the first thing is to be with myself. So I'm a meditator.
Oh, okay.
I spend in the morning, that's the first thing I do. And morning walks are a ritual for me, and I'm really hating this pollution which is not letting me do these walks in the morning. But that's the time when I get to be with myself, and I really value it.
As a president of this university, you are a guiding force for so many, a figure that they look up to. So I want to focus on that responsibility that comes with it. At what point in your life you sort of understood that you had this responsibility?
My grandfather was a very powerful force in a very positive way on the family. He was retired from the government, and he worked actually in the ordnance factories, and he retired as a senior officer from there. Right. He always believed in giving back to the society, so he spent his last 30 years plus working and setting up schools. And then my father also, he was from IIT, he went and studied in Canada, and then right at the prime of his career, he decided to come back to India to give back to the nation. And this is in 70s I'm talking about, where people really didn't come back. Yeah. And I think, and eventually he did, he was a Padma Shri for his contribution towards science and technology. I think growing up in a family which really believed in giving back to the society, and that was really embedded in me right at an early start, that you're responsible for not just yourself but for people around you, and you have to work towards giving back in this lifetime. In fact, the idiom that I was really brought up with, when you give from right hand, your left hand should know. And that's the philosophy with which I was brought up.
I think that's something that would resonate with many. That brings me to your work. After Lady Shri Ram, Cornell you went to, and then you decided to come back. How this responsibility came at that young age? What were your aspirations as 20 years old, as a young person? What do you wanted to become?
I was a very shy kid in school. And it's only at LSR and at Cornell I discovered myself. So I have a lot of respect and for the higher education that I received, and that really transformed me. Even though I came from a business family, but we were really a family of professionals. It was very deeply embedded in me, an unsaid expectation that I had to be on my own feet, I had to get the best of education and really work towards building myself. And I think when I went to Cornell and I was at US, I really didn't want to come back. I was quite happy there with my world. I had settled beautifully. But I think at that point, it was my parents who really encouraged me. And I would use the word very softly, nudged me as well, that it's time to return back home. And when I look back, I don't regret at all. I think it's been wonderful to be back. I think whatever I've done in the last 20 years, I wouldn't have been able to do as much as I've if I had stayed back. And that's the time when I came back. We are a country of opportunities. There's so much in anything you touch, you can build and you can do. And that's the advice I got. And when I came back, I was exploring various things. I in fact did work on the business side for a few years before I stepped into the university.
Right.
So I did bring in a lot of, I think everything that I did before I entered the university really shaped me. Whether it was studying at LSR, being at Cornell, taking on leadership positions, getting my first job, which was through 12 interviews. I got my first job.
Okay.
And it was not easy, but I had 12 rounds of interviews, I still remember, and I managed to get a job in US.
Yeah.
And I was settled well, and then coming back to India and then working on the business side, and then eventually coming to the university. So I think everything that I did before I moved to the university really shaped me, and I feel indebted to my higher education, which was my turning point.
Our viewers would love to know that you also had to go through 12 interviews.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I must say this, that it's very interesting when you go, when you study in a country like US, there is no spoon feeding. Everyone has to kind of fend for themselves.
Right.
And that's the time when I remember how many days and weeks went into the preparation for finding a job. And I was looking for a job in marketing, which was a lot tougher for an Indian, because they were comfortable hiring people from local domains or local country. And I remember that cracking that job was one of the toughest things for me in my life.
You talked about how your grandfather was an inspiration in terms of education. When you realized that this is what I want to build?
So university was really started by my husband, and Chancellor, and it was supported by the family.
Yeah.
And when it was started, I really came in to look at a certain area, small area. I think we were setting up admissions office at that time for financial aid students. And that really kind of inspired me, because I said, I'd love to be involved in a project where we can bring a lot of students who would not otherwise get access to higher education. And making education accessible to people was the mission that really excited me towards coming here. And gradually, I think it started off as a small project, but really became my passion in a positive way. And I started really living this dream of creating an institution which would be beyond my lifetime. Typically other universities that you would come on top of your mind would have been there for 100 years, 200 years. Some of the top institutes in the world have been there for a very long time. And I know this, that even what we are trying to do here, probably the fruits of it I may not be there to see it. So it is really about creating something knowingly that you would not be there to enjoy the fruits of, but it would be something that you would leave behind. It is like that mango tree that your grandmother, great grandmother put in your backyard, and the grandchildren really enjoy the fruits, or the great grandchildren. University is like that too.
Right.
You set it up, but really by the time the university grows and becomes what it's meant to be, I don't think I'll be around. So it's like creating something which is beyond one's lifetime and much bigger than one's life.
Right.
That's what creates the excitement, and to be able to do something which is bigger than our life,
Right.
one life. That's what keeps the excitement going.
That brings me to the decade that you have just had. PML Munjal University has completed a decade of its existence. In last 10 years, what is that one moment that stands out to you personally? You started, like you said, with the admissions office, and now as the president of the university. What is that one moment that you feel that this is something that I spent a decade on and I feel worthwhile doing it?
I think it's really the transformation. I think in one word, if I have to say, when a student comes from a small town and is very bright, probably the first generation learner, and comes into campus, and parents have, they may or may not have the means, but they have aspirations. And when that student crosses over, there's a story coming to my mind, and I'm kind of narrating it to you. But there was this one student who really wanted to study and wanted to get higher education, and her father could not afford it. But she had a mindset that I wanted to study law, and I want to do it from BMU. And I remember that when she applied to us, she had good marks, she had everything, but the confidence of coming to a university, that was very shaky for her, because it was, her parents kept saying it's too far and you'll be alone, and how will you go there, and it's a girl child coming, from one of the village communities. Somehow she had the determination, and when she came to campus to visit and to meet the faculty, she got even more confident that she wanted to study here. Stories like that, and she's studying with us, she's one of the students who's done extremely well. I think stories like that, when I hear students coming into university, especially first generation learners, the kind of challenges they need to cross, the kind of obstacles they need to cross, we can't even dream of. And when you hear their stories, and when they come and they get education, and then they go out and get jobs, and they do exceedingly well, it's like the whole family is transformed. And now for a woman, if you educate a girl, not just one person, it's the entire family that gets transformed. So I think stories like that really excite me, because I feel that that's something that, you are touching lives. And honestly, I don't meet a lot of them after they graduate. Some of them, they do write to us, they connect with us, but I think the connection gets weaker at times because they move on and everything. But the satisfaction that they went out to the world, fully equipped in getting their first job and building their families and lives, that's very, very satisfying. And it's like mother bird in a nest, mother bird seeing the babies fly out of the nest. They don't return most of the times because they find their own worlds and their own nests. It's like that kind of a feeling, and it's good actually. It's very of course we have our alumni program, people do connect, all of that happens, but eventually they become their own grown-ups, their own individuals. And that's what we hope and aspire for, and that really excites me.
How do you deal with this? I don't know how educationists do it, this feeling of letting go, every new batch coming every year, and then them passing out. You meet so many people, so many personalities, like you mentioned. What is that like that mechanism,
Yeah.
that internal thought that even though you know that most of them will not meet you,
Yeah.
you still carry on with it. And
Yeah.
like you said, new energies come in,
Yeah.
some people pass out. How do these teachers and president, all these colleges do it?
I think it's really the mission and the fact that they are. It's like, you know, you are building future leaders. You are building, nurturing change makers,
Yeah.
and when you have the satisfaction that you've done your job well, then letting them go is a lot easier. Of course, at times you feel you could have done the job better, but I think every person has its own journey, and at some point, some people get transformed earlier, some people take time, but I think the seeds of transformation, they are kind of sown when they are in
Right.
the institute. What we are trying to do is to make sure students walking out of campus have the general ingredients that they'll need in the future to be successful or to be on their own feet.
What are those emotions that you always feel at the convocation? I think you have had 10 conversations by now.
Almost ninth
Nine
convocation I
convocations.
think we had last year.
Yeah.
It's emotional. I think it's very, very to let, but you also feel happy. See, I think
Okay.
it's a very mixed feeling.
Right.
You know that they can't stay with you all their lives. They have
Right.
to move on.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're moving on, going to good roles, going to good organizations, building a life of their own.
Okay.
You know, you get wedding cards from them, you get letters from them on New Year's, on
Right.
Teachers' Day, on different occasions. You know they're doing well. And I think for us really it's a community we are building. Which you know that even if you want them to stay with you, they have to move on. The success of this is if they move on.
Right.
So if they don't, then that's not success. So
Correct.
for us, that's part of the whole cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving on to your hobbies now, you had a very serious relationship with Kathak.
Oh
And
my. You've researched well on me. Okay.
yes, your family also supports artistic initiatives through Serendipity Arts Foundation.
Right.
I want to ask you, what does art means to you personally, and how does it helps you as a person?
I was a student of Srimati Manjushri Chatterjee, and she was really one of these figures who transformed, you know, me in many ways. Classical music teaches you so much, right from learning to be disciplined,
Right.
to getting it right, a pursuit of excellence, working towards with integrity, hard work. A lot of the values which I feel I have embedded in my life later, you know, as I've taken on other roles also.
Right.
So I don't dance any longer, but I love any time I get to enjoy a good show or listening to good music. That's also one of my me times that I really enjoy. So I've learned so much, and I'm also indebted to my teacher who has built this spirit of doing the right thing. So when you asked me about my world of art, I think really I have to talk about what I've learned from my teacher, because it is really what you learn from your guru, and that stays with you, and the relationship that guru-shishya Parampara,
Okay.
as we call it, that really teaches you many things. Some of the things that I've learned from there that I use now is being very disciplined, committed, hard work, continuing to do it till I don't get that thing right, which is what classical dance teaches you, because there's so much of riyaz.
Yes.
And riyaz is, you know, if you have to keep on doing it and you're at it till you don't get it right. That's what I carry on, you know, with what it is. I don't think I can imagine my world without art and music. So to ask me that what it means to me, I think it'll be like lifeless, because it really has built my life, my personal passion, my personal, and a lot of values that I live by. I have learned in those years that I've literally lived in my teacher's house, because for Riyaz you would go almost before the shows every day, and you know, you would have so much to learn from. So I think in anything and everything I do, there are certain impressions, or rather certain marks of what it has taught me. I think bringing art in a person's life at a younger age is very important, because it is a form of expression.
Correct.
And different children take up to different expressions, and that's why different forms of art that appeals to them. But introducing art at a younger age is a must, and any form of art. And Serendipity is run by our Chancellor, and that's his passion. It's not just about youth, but it's actually building a whole life around art and philosophy towards art and culture. To answer your question, that really we've built a lot of my life is indebted to the art and culture that I was exposed to at a younger age.
You rightly said that art is something that builds character. And I was going through some of your reading reflections, coming to another hobby of yours, that's reading. What makes you pick up a book?
I wish I would get more time to read. I don't think I get enough time. If you ask my daughter, she's an avid reader, and she says, "Mama, you need to read more." So I wish I could get more time to read. But when I look back, when I look at the books generally they're recommended, and I go with the recommendation because I don't have as much time to browse through. But books that are about transformation, about some radical change, or a radical idea, or something which is very different, and I like to read about those kind of things. So one of my favorite books is a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi. And that's a book which was written, I think, at least 100 years back. At least the story is from 100 years back. I think it probably got published in the last century. I think, so I try and pick up books which are different and really would change my way of thinking, or help me or make me reflect in something which I had not ever thought of.
Let's come to leadership now and the legacy. Women in leadership carry pressures that aren't written into job descriptions. What were those pressures that you went through?
Frankly, Adarsh, I agree with the statement that's made that we can't have it all. And I think it's true for men as well. I think it's not just women. I would say even for men. I think any person in a leadership position can't have it all. You have to make your compromises. You have to prioritize things that really matter to you and are important. And in that list, some things do fall out, and you accordingly function. For me, personally, and I speak on behalf of a lot of women, because I know that I have a lot of colleagues I talk to. The challenge really comes from home. And so if I have to explain the answer a little bit, at work, I feel, at least in the university, we have a very high percentage of women at leadership positions. So I think that community really helps, because all of us understand each other and they work with each other, and so they understand someone's father is not well, someone's husband is not well, children are not well. So those kind of things happen, and I think we as a community try and support each other as much as we can. But for me, when I look at home, it's the children. So it's the question I need to answer my 8-year-old, that why do I need to work so long, so many days and such long hours, and why do I need to travel, and why do I need to be there, why do I need to be away from home?
Right.
And I think when children are young, they ask you these questions in innocence, and they really mean it also, because
Right.
they'd love to have a parent around all the time. But the interesting part is they never ask their father this question. They ask their mother the question.
Absolutely.
So it does make me sometimes, I look at them and I say, why don't you ask your father too? So I think it's kind of a conditioning we all live in, right? Where
Yes.
mothers are expected to be the first caretakers.
Yeah.
And because of that, mothers end up doing a lot more. Which is not to say fathers don't do. I think my
Yeah.
husband is extremely supportive, and he really does help out, with the children and with home and everything. But I do think it is still the buck stops at the women, in running, in managing children and answering these questions. But I think I want to answer this in a way that what keeps me going. I think
Right.
despite this question, I do come to work, and I don't think I give up on
Right.
traveling anywhere or doing
Right.
anything
Right.
that I would do otherwise if this question wasn't asked. I think I know that my girls, I have 2 girls, that they need to see a woman working in their lives. And they need to see the kind of hard work, they need to see how each one of us has to have their own identity built. And we call it astitva.
Right.
So, and for them, it's very important to see that in a working mom, because I hope they will grow up one day and they will understand why was mom working,
Correct.
and in their own worlds they will continue to keep the baton on, because we do need more women back at work in our
Right.
country.
Right.
We need more women in leadership positions. We need more women to be talking about becoming leaders. We need more girls to be dreaming of becoming leaders. And we don't want them to fall out when a child is born, or when a parent falls sick at home and they have to take care. We need them to come back to work. And I think that keeps me going, because I do feel that I have a responsibility of despite everything going on in my world, I do need to show up, I need to work and encourage others to do the same.
That brings me to my next question, which is, what do you think is a good leader in today's world?
I don't think a definition of a good leader would have changed, Adarsh. A good leader is a good leader, and it doesn't matter which year,
Right.
or which decade or century the leader was born. And I would say a leader is as good a leader as the team that he or she inherits or builds. So to my mind, leader is more about building a team and being an enabler, of letting people achieve, or rather helping people achieve their aspirations, and helping in the gamut of whatever you are trying to build.
Right.
So it's really helping people and enabling people. I do think that most good leaders that I have met in my life have been also very spiritually evolved somewhere. I think the lack of clarity they have and the clarity of who they are. And I'm only talking of good leaders, because we have many leaders, but not necessarily all are good,
All are good.
in this era. So I'm talking about leaders who are effective and are good. They have a sense of clarity of who they are, what they want to do, and clarity of what they are trying to build. So all that can only come, I feel, if a person has kind of done a manthan internally.
Right.
A leader has to do a lot of manthan internally while the institution is being built outside.
Correct.
Because it is really the internal manthan
Sure.
that kind of helps you build everything outside. And that's the challenge a leader has, that how well he or she can do that manthan. So it's really about discovering who you are as a person. Leadership is about that, and then being able to have people around you work and helping them achieve their own aspirations.
I mean, you talked about Manthan. That brings me to question of values. Like Manthan would always involve values like kindness, empathy,
Yes.
listening, culture. What are some of those values that you feel or you think that are important in a leader and that maybe have shaped you or your journey so far?
I think all of what you said, right? So one thing that really helps me, I mean, I'm sure everyone has their own style. I think I'm a very self-reflective person. And I think working on your own dissolution, which may sound very contradictory, but working on your own dissolution. So asking your question that if I'm not here, will the institution run as it's being run today? Which means pretty much dissolving yourself, you being irrelevant. A journey of a leader to become irrelevant and to make him or herself irrelevant while running the institution is the journey one needs to work towards. And that can't happen without being self-reflective, without working and understanding people well, without clarity of what you're trying to do. So all of this, I think one needs.
Many women today are torn between societal expectations, family expectations, their career, their self-worth. As a guiding force to a lot many women on the campus and outside, those who look up to you, what would you want those female to hear?
If I have to say that one thing, I do keep telling a lot of people this, that I think don't give up. It is hard. It is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And really continuing to do what is right is very important, even though it may not seem like the easiest thing to do at that time, but continuing to work towards what your aspiration is. I think that would be my advice in general.
Let me take you now to what students are thinking around. There's a meme going everywhere, all around, about Faustin penguin, nihilist penguin, where people are wanting to disconnect from the society. It's a story about a penguin which is walking towards a mountain, and it has resurfaced in 2026 based on a documentary of 2007. In a hypothetical scenario, if one such penguin was on your campus, what would be your advice to that penguin or those students who may be feeling that way?
I would love to have such penguins on campus, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't like routine. Basically, we're talking about people who want to take a road less traveled, a path which others would tell them don't take. So I think we should encourage that.
That's something that Gen Z would be thrilled about.
Yes.
This brings us to dreams. You have written recently about Indian dream in one of your articles for Fortune. What do you want a 20-year-old or someone who says to you, I want to go abroad? What would you say to them?
I think it's a different place. I did go overseas to study 20 years back.
Yeah.
And now when I look around, I would say it's best to be home and to look at opportunities within India is the best thing to do, because as we are hearing, the world is not getting any safer. So might as well stay back at home and make India great again.
I mean, that's a thought to go with. You have referred to Santosh ji in many of your speeches. What influence she had on your worldview?
I think for us as a family, she was the matriarch, and she kept the family together. She's really helped me understand how a joint family, and coming from the family that we are, how she beautifully kept everybody in the family together. You know, she used to say, I have a garden, and in my garden I have plants and flowers, and each flower and each plant is different, indicating to her family members. But they all look beautiful together. I think that philosophy stayed with me a lot. That, when you are working or when you are with different groups, there are different people all the time. But keeping them together is important, because together they make the garden beautiful.
Correct. No, that's a beautiful philosophy. If purpose isn't a feeling but a practice, what is that practice you want to be remembered for? Or maybe I put it as, what would be your legacy, not inherited, that you hope to be known for?
So for me, really, purpose is about service, seva, and my purpose is seva. Building an institution which will be beyond my lifetime, and transforming lives, nurturing change makers for the world of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I do think that when I look at an institution and look at myself, the most exciting time, or I would say one of my real moments, is when I see students who have received a gift, carry forward that baton and give it in future, pass it on as a gift to others. By that, what I mean, Adarsh, is, we have a lot of students who are on financial aid. And last year we had one student come in and give out a scholarship to another student. When I heard about it, I was quite surprised what really inspired this, or what excited the student. And I invited her for lunch. Yep. And while sitting down with her, I understood that she was actually working. She was not from a business family or anything like that. She was working in a company, and she and her brother, and they were young, so I would imagine they're just starting off their careers, really. Both of them thought of setting up a scholarship in the name of one of their uncles who they had not even seen. So to my mind, a student, it is a little bit like when you're building a community and you are building an institution. You do good, and you want people to do further good to others. It's like a little thread that goes on and carries on, and if we can do that, in years to come, that to me would be something very interesting we've created. That students are coming forward to help each other and to enable each other to give education to others who would not otherwise get the access to education.
That thought of empowerment, that would be perfect way to sort of end this episode of One Purpose. And thank you, Swati, for reminding us that legacy and purpose isn't about carrying something forward, but also about shaping it with intention. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Adarsh, for
now,
having me on your show.
I would like one small request from our end. This is our book of purpose, and I would like you to maybe record your thoughts and your reflection. What is your purpose